You know, there's a lot of talk about self-love, and self-love truly is very important. But where do we cross the line between self-love and narcissism? Well, we're going to talk about that right after this. What is mindset? Our mindset is based on what we believe, and anything we believe in, we put into motion. I have spent my life putting the mindset of perseverance into motion, and now I am here today to share my journey along with others whose mindsets have changed the course of their lives. Hi, I'm mindset coach Lorraine Lindsey, and I believe that if you can change your mind, you have the power to change your life. So are you ready? Welcome back to another episode of The Mindsetters, where we believe that if you can change your mind, you have the power to change your life. I am super excited today because the Lipstick Ladies are back. You all have been asking, where are the girls? They've been doing their thing. And we are actually going to be branching off and doing a podcast ourselves. So we've talked about it, but it's coming in. It's going to be fun. Hot topics and things that you guys want to hear about, women's stuff, relationships, being a businesswoman, all that good stuff. So stay tuned. We'll be updating you as we go along on the new podcast and the name of that podcast. But in the meantime, we are here today to talk about self-love versus narcissism. But before we get into the program, do not forget to hit the subscription button. Give us a thumbs up. Send us your comments. The show is continuing to grow because you are subscribing, and I am much appreciative of the support. So do not forget to subscribe and pass it along. Let people know we're out there. Anyways, without further ado, I want to introduce the Lipstick Ladies, my girls, my aces. First, we'll start with Carmen Smith. Carmen, tell them a little bit about you, girl.
Hi, I'm Carmen Smith.
I put you on the spot.
Always smiling. Always smiling. Yeah.
No, usually you have
With her
the intro
picture,
up.
yeah.
Okay, I'm Carmen Smith. I'm a local realtor. I also make my own skincare line called Gia Carroll. You can get it on Etsy. And I'm a referee for basketball. I have a lot of little things I'm interested in.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah. Yes, you are, girl.
Mm-hmm.
What about you, Miss Charlene?
And she's nice and tan, too. She just got back from Puerto Rico.
Oh.
Look at this girl.
Puerto Rico. Your people. She went to go
my
see your
my
people.
Boricua, yeah, yes. What about me? All right, everybody. I'm a lender. I've been a lender for a really long time. And I'm also a health and fitness coach. And I love people, and I like to talk about things that matter and connect in the community.
Yes, these are my girls, man. And of course, there's me, Lorraine Lindsey. I'm your coach, your life coach, your certified life coach. I'm also a realtor here in Las Vegas. So if you're looking to buy a home, sell your home, or get financing for a home, we are your crew. So call us, contact us. People are always asking, what do you do? What do you do? That's what I do. Okay. So anyways, moving forward, let's get right into this whole self-love. So we were talking today about getting together, doing a show here, just because people haven't seen the ladies in a while, and we're getting ready to launch our own show. So I figure we bring the audience back and hear from us again. And of course, I just love to have you all here with me. I feel so comfortable when you guys are here. And we were kind of throwing away topic ideas, right? Carmen likes to do these topic parties where they pull them and say stuff. So I'm like, well, what are we going to do? And she suggested the self-love. So I started thinking that's a good topic because it's such a buzz thing right now. And a guest that I had recently on the show, she talked a lot about emphasizing the importance of self-love. But the thing is, there's a lot of people out there that are proclaiming the self-love thing, but really, truly, they're just really full of themselves, and it's some bit of narcissism. So I kind of want to talk about the two. And I also want to kind of emphasize why self-love doesn't mean you're being selfish. Because I think some people feel like if they put themselves first and make themselves a priority, then they end up feeling guilty because they feel like they're being selfish. And so I want to kind of tap into that as well. So real quick, just for some definitions, I looked up, there's a great article called enlightio.com. So if you want to reference this article, that's where I'm getting this information from. So it says, what's the difference between self-love and narcissism? So first, I'll talk about what self-love is, and then someone else can read about the narcissism. So self-love is the practice of valuing oneself and one's needs and desires. It is about honoring your own feelings and respecting your own boundaries. It is not about putting yourself on a pedestal or being overly selfish. When you love yourself, you're more likely to treat yourself with respect and compassion. You will also be more willing to take care of yourself, both physically and emotionally. It's about recognizing your own worth and knowing that you are worthy of love and happiness. In addition, self-love is an important part of personal growth and development. It helps you become stronger, more confident, and more resilient. It also enables you to develop a healthy sense of self-esteem and self-worth. Have a healthy relationship with yourself and be at peace with who you are. So this is the definition of self-love. How do you ladies treat yourself with self-love? What are some of the things that you do as a reflection of self-love for self? And why do you think that's important?
So self-love, self-care type stuff. I've recently started working out in the morning and taking 15, 20 minutes to listen to like meditation and just be in tune with myself and just kind of like start my day that way. That's something that I've recently added for my self-care.
Love that.
And that's loving yourself when you care for yourself. I'm right there with you, taking time for me to just kind of get my thoughts in order, my mind in order, my body, all that. But also how I eat and how I sleep and how I dress. All those things matter to me for me. It's me loving me, not for any other reason but that. And I feel my best. I feel like I'm loving myself when I care for myself outwardly, but also internally too, because that takes me there. So feeling good is a full circle thing, not just one and none.
Right. I think self-care too, there's the surface level of self-care, right? Where we do the pampering, a spa day, getting our nails done, grooming and keeping ourselves together. Those are kind of like the superficial self-care things that we take time on. But I also feel like for me personally, self-care has really been tapping in on different levels of where things are not working out in my life, right? Different avenues of my life that are seemingly falling apart. Self-care for me and self-love is checking in with that and saying, how am I participating in this? Who am I that's making these decisions, and really digging deep. And sometimes that in the past for me especially, it required me to go get help, to get counseling, to get therapy, to do workshops, to talk to other people, and to really just be mindful and become aware of self. That's to me a deeper level of self-love.
Yeah.
And the girl that, like, for example, I love what she said in the show before. She was like, I can do me and do these things with you and take care of this and do this, but I can do me first. So do you guys want to kind of like tap into that a little bit?
It's true. And to that point, how can you love others and care for others when you don't care for yourself first? I think that's kind of being in alignment, right? Self-love is that alignment that we all have with our spirit and our mind that connects. And, once we're in that space, then we can not only pour into ourselves, but pour into others. And I think also having self-care, self-love, all that is also understanding when our cup is full and empty.
Right.
That's important. That way we know where to reset ourselves and how much we can actually give of ourselves, because overgiving is not loving yourself. It's just, if you don't have that to give and you're giving everything you have, you have to pull back in so you can offer your best. Being your best of who you are in that moment is loving yourself.
That's a good point. I mean, understanding when your cup is running over, you know what I mean? And being able to say no is a part of self-love. Being able to say, no, these are the boundaries, and I'm at capacity here. So how do you think, like, how does somebody, because I hear this a lot, I've heard a lot. I've been coaching a lot lately. A lot of people have been signing up for coaching, and predominantly women are who I coach. And a lot of these women are saying, I just don't know how to self-love. I don't even know how to do it. I fundamentally understand it, right? I can understand it by definition, but to make it applicable, it's difficult for them because they're caught in these habits of non-self-love and feeling like if I pull back the reins here of taking care of this person or this situation or whatever, I'm going to feel guilty, and then I'm not going to be able to self-love self, right? So how do we combat that and make that a priority for your life?
I think part of self-love is trusting oneself. And that what I'm hearing there is there's a disconnect in trusting oneself, knowing that if I pull back from here, I'm still going to be okay. I'm still going to be enough, right? Because sometimes we give more than what we have because that's where we find our validation or enoughness or whatever the outworld is telling us. But really, self-love to me starts as an inside job, and to your folks that you're coaching. For me personally, I'm intelligent, right? I understand things, but to put it in practice, tell me examples, give me examples, show me what that looks like so I can connect the dots of what that is and make sense of it in my mind, whatever it is. Some people need that. They need to see this is what self-love looks like. Maybe not exactly, but this is an example of what that is. Do you practice this? If not, what are some of the things you're already doing? And let's see, that's an act of self-love. That's an act of self-love. And what's not, then go through it that way. But sometimes we use words and it sounds like something bigger than the simplicity of what it is. So we have to understand what that is so we can pour more into that and understand what that is further.
For me, like, my daughter and I are getting counseling, and the therapist gave her a long list of things to do, and I simplified it for her. And I said, do something that was educational, health related, spiritual, fun, and financial. Those 5 things. For me, I was like, I need to do that every day too for myself.
Right.
Because if I hit all those things, I've done something just for me.
Right.
So for me, self-love, I realized how much I was pouring into people, and with an expectation to get poured back into,
Right.
and then not getting poured back into and feeling completely depleted. And it's like, no, this has to stop because I'm depleted, but I have an expectation also to get filled up.
Right.
And
that's really powerful.
that was not happening. So it's like, I need to fill into myself first. I need to fill my cup first before I have anything to give to anybody else.
And what I hear with that is like, it's just checking in, right? It's like, okay, at a minimum, identifying with the fact that I'm not happy in this space, whatever that space is, fill in the blank, right? Or I'm not fulfilled here, or I'm pouring and I'm giving everything I got, and there is no reciprocation of that. And by the way, giving is what our abundance is, right? Getting back is where we usually get our heart broken because that lies in expectation. But at the same time that we're giving, we also self-love is a matter of tapping in and raising your standards, right? Because how I show up, at least at a minimum, I want someone to meet me there. You know what I mean? Instead of trying to carry and pull people up or want to nurture and fix and correct and love more the potential than the actual situation. You know what I mean? And self-love is like you had said, actually.
There should be a man named Potential.
Right. there is a man named Potential. Every single one of them.
That's so funny.
Oh
gosh. No, you're not.
Every man's got potential.
I know, right? Yeah, it's so funny. That's their middle name.
Potential.
We do, though, but we do. We really, really trap ourselves sometimes. And when I talked about this last week, my son came on the show, and our topic was on change. And why is it so hard for people to change? And the reason why it's hard to change, because it's going to require you to take action. And some of those things that we know we need to change, it requires us to release certain things or to get rid of certain things, right? And we're just not really ready to do it. And we have to be honest with ourselves and saying, okay, I know this needs to change, but I'm not ready to let this go or that go, to walk away from that job, to get rid of that person, or whatever the situation may be, right? And so self-love sometimes is saying, I have to change. Nothing around me is going to change. Everything is going to stay the same. Or it can change, but regardless, whatever's happening outside of me is out of my power and out of my control. So I have to switch my lens here and start loving me a little bit more, so that way I can teach people how to treat me better. You know what I mean? So I want to go real quick into the narcissism thing and the fine lines between self-love and narcissism, because, again, I've been in situations where person self-loving themselves and they want to put their self-love on me. And, okay, love you, boo. It's all good, but that doesn't mean that you get to treat me like crap and point everything out bad about me and that I'm a flawed human being and this and that because you're loving on yourself. That is not love. That is you projecting your crap onto me. So I want to kind of, or who, does somebody else want to read it? Oh, you want me to read it? Okay.
Yeah.
The narcissism. Let's kind of define it, because this is such a buzzword. And there is a huge spectrum on levels of narcissism. Everybody has a little bit of narcissism in them, especially in today's world with the selfies and the this and that, right? Except for Carmen. She's the exception to all of the rules.
Narcissistic.
Right. Good example. Okay, so what is narcissism? So narcissism is characterized by an exaggerated sense of self-importance, a need for admiration, and a lack of empathy. Narcissists often find it very difficult to accept any kind of criticism and can be very sensitive to even the slightest hint of disapproval. They also often have a sense of entitlement. They feel they are above the rules and are accountable to no one. One hallmark trait of narcissism is a tendency to engage in grandiose behavior, such as bragging about success or extreme self-centeredness. Narcissists also tend to be very manipulative and can be very charming when they want something. They are often very good at hiding their true motives and may come across as caring and loving when in reality, they might just be looking out for themselves. Furthermore, narcissistic behavior can be harmful to both the person and those around them. Narcissists being very domineering and demanding and can cause great tension in relationships. Because narcissists lack empathy, they are often unable to understand how their behavior affects others and may even lash out at the people who are trying to point out their flaws. Man, I think everybody in some capacity has dealt with someone who has that type of narcissism. And the thing that is really frustrating about these narcissistic people is, for me personally, is the fact that they do lack empathy and that they are not accountable to anything. And by the way, when you're, even for me as a coach, I've had a couple people that I've coached in the past that were very high spectrum narcissists, and you just can't coach them. All they want to do is talk to you about everybody else and why they're the problem and why don't they, and they think they're doing something proactive by going to coaching and counseling or therapy, and they'll use that as their mantra. But it's like, you're coming to see me as a coach because you want validation for who you are and you want me to wrong everybody in your life. But the reality is that that's an impossible thing. Anytime there's conflict between two people, there's both participants in that conflict. Sometimes more than the other, but there's some resolve that both people can be accountable for. And if a person's just like, it ain't me, it's always you, I mean, come on.
They need a cheerleader, not a coach.
Right. That's exactly right.
Yeah, I think that, I mean, to me, it sounds like a lack of growth, that they're, clearly immature in life when you sit there or you are that person, because you don't want to see beyond that. It's almost like, let me not see so it doesn't exist, but really it's right there. So it's a reflection of self. I mean, people don't want to change. Some people just, that's what they think life is supposed to be like for them.
Right.
It's just
Carmen's
been there too. No,
yeah, right?
No, it's so draining.
It's draining
to deal with people who always want to make you to be wrong about something, and they're always right about everything. And it's like, God, what must go through your head all day?
Right.
The stories you tell yourself, like, nobody's right or wrong. We just both have perspective
that are different.
And it's just, it's so draining.
It is very, very draining.
We do use the term loosely.
Oh, yes.
When it affects us, you're narcissistic. I agree. I think we all have some kind of narcissistic tendencies. Even me saying I'm filling up everybody else's cup and I don't get my cup full because I haven't filled my own cup.
Yeah, but the fact that you even said that and being accountable is not very narcissistic of you.
Yeah, but I mean, I had to come to that.
But yeah, no,
I hear
what
you.
I mean?
So
what's the difference then? I mean, like, how do we get that we are self-loving versus being self-fulfilling or full of ourselves, so to speak? What would you say would be the difference for people who are listening, that they can get that clarity in that? Because people are, when you're in a relationship, for example, and you're like, I am tired of the mistreatment, I am tired of the abuse in whatever capacity that is, I am tired of feeling empty, whatever that is, and now I'm going to start loving me. And you work on self-love, that other person that's mistreating you is threatened by that sometimes. Right? They're like, you want to do your little self-righteous thing, and they'll try to berate you and get you from doing that because it's a manipulative tactic, because they don't want you to self-love. They don't want you to stand up for yourself. They know that if you start standing up for yourself and creating boundaries and consequences and things like that, that might be a bye-bye for them. And so they will try to discourage you from that kind of thing, So how do we get clarity on whether or not it is work for ourselves. Because again, and I'm rambling, but we can get trapped by thinking, oh, maybe I am being a little full of myself by taking a day to myself when they're telling me not to, or am I being selfish when this person wants me to be up under them all day long and I want to have time with my friends? And then we start to believe that, and we lose a sense of ourselves. So how do we define the difference?
I think just being sure with yourself on where you want to be. You can't, unfortunately, you come in this world by yourself, you leave by yourself, so you have to take care of self first. I mean,
it's all intention.
if somebody's going to leave me because I need to be better for myself first, then I can be better for everybody else. I really probably don't need that person in my life anyway.
Right.
But it's hard when you have a history with somebody and they're used to you the way you are or have been, and you change. So maybe it'll inspire them to grow.
And that part happens too. And some people just don't realize that they're even narcissistic. They're just like, that's just who I am. I don't know anything else. Teach me, or how do I learn that? Or I don't even have the tools inside of me to know different. So I think it's that too.
And to be fair, I mean, a lot of people who have these type of behavioral things, it stems from abuse and things that they've been through in their lives, and it becomes a protective coat of armor for them. You know, they lose the accountability and they get entitled. They become very self-entitled, but it's something that has happened in their lives that has created and caused this kind of development of this personality, if you will. Again, and I want to, there was a part on here in the article.
No, it's often said empaths are attracted to narcissists and narcissists are attracted to empath. If you think about that, I mean, you can understand why, right? The empath always sees the best in the other person. Oh, I feel their pain, that they just haven't learned yet. Let me be their savior. Let me be the one to, look at me, look at what I'm doing. Is that narcissistic of the empath to think that they could change the other person by their behavior? I think sometimes it's a flow. Sometimes it's a measure of intention. You know, truly.
Yeah. And so it summarizes here. It says self-love is rooted in compassion and understanding, whereas narcissism is rooted in entitlement and grandiosity. And I think that that's the distinction. When I want to operate in self-love is because, first of all, I want to improve self so that way I am better for others, right? I think the more that I feel compassion for myself makes me more compassionate for others. The more grace I give myself, the more grace I can give to other people. I don't need to self-love in a way that puts me on a pedestal and it's like, hey, notice me. I need to, it's just an inward thing. It isn't for a response to the outside world. I think that's the difference. But it is for me to have better relationships with people, because the people and the relationships that we have with people are a reflection of our relationship with ourselves. Everything in life is mirroring who we are in some capacity, or what we believe about ourselves.
What we need to learn.
Right. Right. And so wherever I've had setbacks and pitfalls in my life, whether it's career and work or business-wise or even relationship-wise, a lot of me working on that self-love thing is to really see what's going wrong and to really ask myself, why? Why is this business not working out for me? Well, what are you doing, Lorraine? Are you showing up? Are you committed? Are you putting things into motion? It isn't that this person didn't call you back, or it isn't that this happened. It's what are you doing that's consistent? You know, same thing with a relationship. It's like, if I'm in a relationship, I'll give a perfect example. Recently, my man likes to use language, okay? And he uses language when he talks to me sometimes, and I don't like it, okay? I said, do not use language when you're talking to me. I don't like when a man uses profanity talking to a woman. I don't like it. Well, you cuss, he says. I said, okay, I'm not trying to be a hypocrite here. I have things that bother me. You have things that bother you. I'm not trying to do a double standard. I'm just sharing with you that when you do it, and when a man talks to a woman with language, I have a backstory to that. I have a reason why I don't like that. And I'm asking you to be a little bit more mindful and be respectful. I don't care if you're just joking or whatever. I don't like it, right? Well, you don't, and I said, this is not tit for tat, but it's like me having to draw the line. Now, he'll use the language and continue to use the language. Why? Because I tolerate it. At the end of the day, that's never going to change. And I said to him, when you go to a function or when you're speaking around children or you're around certain people, you don't use language. because there is an understanding in your mind. Because he said, oh, I'll try. No, you either do it or you don't do it, because you know that you're capable of being respectful around certain people. So you have the cognitive ability to understand when and when not to use language. But over the course of the years that we've been together, I've tolerated it from you. It doesn't matter how much I tell you I don't like it. There's been no hard line in the sand for that to stop. And so this is where I say where the self-love is understanding, what am I tolerating in my life? And why am I tolerating those things? And let me be honest with myself. And if I can't understand the answers, then I need to go get help to get those answers, because I don't want my life to keep showing up like this, right? And I'm sorry, I'm rambling.
That's self-love, what you just said, is going internal, like you're doing your checklist of who you are internally and what's not in alignment. And what's not in alignment, you realize that self-loving yourself is finding a way to find that answer for you. Whether the answer is a permanent or temporary, it's still an answer that fulfills that discord,
right,
to some capacity. But that's interesting.
And part of it is defining what that is, right, for yourself. Like what I've been doing a lot of soul searching. Why do I tolerate this? Why do I let this happen? Why does this continue to happen to me? What am I projecting that is bringing this energy into my life that I need to change in myself?
Right.
And I can't blame other people for what I tolerate. So is it selfish?
I don't think so.
I don't either.
And I also think too, like self-love is like when you say that in terms of that, reflecting and understanding self, but not beating yourself up or being overly responsible. I always give her a hard time because she's overly accountable. She's very accountable to everything happening, to the point where then that there becomes a tolerance, right? Because then you start to blame self. And so when things are not, again, it's the participation of both parties. It's like, okay, if I'm in a situation that I'm not happy with, again, like you said, asking yourself, tapping in. And sometimes you don't know how to have the answer or what to do about the answer because you don't have the tools. You know, you only know what you know. And I say this all the time, you know what you know what you don't know, but you don't know what you don't know. And a lot of those are those blinders. And when we keep doing the same thing over and over and over again, and we're trying to rack our brains to figure it out, it's because we don't have the tools.
We don't have the tools, and we like what's familiar.
Right.
So I was having a conversation with my son today and about his, girlfriend or whatever. And he's like, I go back and it's the same thing over and over. But he's like, but we've been together 3 years. And it's like, you're so familiar with her that it's almost fearful to leave and find something new because you just know her. And she, so you're just used to going through that, on that hamster wheel, and it's like, why do I keep attracting the same energy? Because I keep attracting what I'm familiar with.
Right. It's 100% what it is. We are creatures of habit. It is the design of human beings. I've been reading so many books on this, Power of Habit, The Atomic Habit, Your Best Year, and they all fundamentally say the same thing about the compounding effect and what we do. And the essence of who we are is our emotions, right? It's our experiences and how they make us feel. And like when we're digging deep and we're doing deep work, it's like, okay, maybe I don't have an issue with my mom anymore. Or maybe I don't have an issue with my dad as it pertains to the person. I don't have an issue with my ex-husband as it pertains to him as the person. But what I haven't healed is the emotional experience that left me with, right? And so that's really what we have to tap into, because then we attract familiar things. If my emotional experience is that after this point is abandonment, and I believe somewhere in the back of my mind that everybody I'll have in my life will abandon me, I will attract that energy because it's familiar to me. It's about understanding, self-love is about understanding the language that we're using for self, right? I had a woman now that I'm coaching, and she's very bitter about a situation that has happened, and it's a legitimate reason for her bitterness. I mean, the story is terrible, and she's very bitter and she's very resentful, but that's her mantra right now. So every time she's in the environment, because she has no choice to be in the specific environment right now, she's trying to. We're working through those levels of how to get out. But I told her, your mantra is bitterness. And so everything right now is keeping score of your bitterness so it could become a real thing, can stay real. And if we don't tap in to what we are telling ourselves subliminally, then those are those blind spots that we're talking about. And she didn't even know that was a thing, but it was her blind spot. So with us doing some coaching work, it came up. And she's like, holy shit, I thought I was over all of this. and I'm bitter and I didn't even realize. And so everything I'm attracting into my life is making me bitter. Well, that's what your brain is looking for. That's the command you gave your life right now is I'm a bitter person. That is a command. Captain, we're going to go find you bitterness, baby. So whatever you're telling yourself, if you tell yourself you're not enough and you're not worthy, whether you know you're doing it consciously or subconsciously, that is a command for your life, and you will find everybody that will support that thought. And this is where self-love is really digging deep. You know, I know Carmen always jokes me, it ain't that deep. Don't dig that deep. But it is, at least for my journey. There were certain things.
For your journey, for each one of our journeys, it's the depth of our capacity in that moment. And as we grow, we learn more. And that's why we have these talks. That's why we connect. That's why some people reach out for coaching or therapy or counseling. And some people don't because they're afraid of that. And they don't even want to hear a way there.
Yeah.
And that's their journey. That's their life. And we can only share what we know based upon our experiences, our belief system, the energy we've felt through whatever that is.
So true. I mean, think about just on the simplicity, right? I grew up in, poverty, right? That was my life. And so everybody in my world was poor. And so we did poor things. But I didn't know any different. That was just life. That was just life. Until I met someone who was wealthy. And they talked different. They dressed different. They smelled different. They looked different. They thought about things differently. Well, that was one wealthy person. Then I was like, well, I want to know more about that. And I started surrounding myself with different people. That innately shifted me because it made my world see different. I'm not judging that world that I was in, but it shifted me. And so part of that self-love is saying, okay, if the environment that I'm in is attracting these things because it's just this repetitious thing that's so familiar to me, part of me self-loving is to be courageous enough to step into something, into an environment that will give me different things. Or to have conversations different than the conversations I used to have, or to embrace people that are honest with me.
You said something key, courageous.
It takes courage.
Absolutely. Some people find it at a very young age, and some people get it taken away from them at a very young age. So that's part of our journey is keep holding on to that courage, have the courage to live that life that we want to live, to understand that our destiny is there. If we just got to, learn whatever that is, we're here to learn.
Right. Or another part of, sometimes unfortunately it's not courage that changes us, it's the pain. It becomes so unbearable. When I was married and I was going through what I was going through, there were so many times in that relationship I knew I should have left. I absolutely knew that this relationship was not good for me. I just didn't want to let him go until the pain became greater than the love. And then I felt forced out. I was like, I can't physically, emotionally do one more day. I remember I literally got up one morning and drove to the courthouse and filled out all the paperwork. And I unplugged my phone, shut everything off. And once that doc was signed and I submitted my whatever it cost me, I went home and I slept because I finally had just had enough to the point where it was an ultimate surrender. I didn't know what was going to happen next. If I was ever going to meet anybody, I didn't know. I didn't care. All I knew was the pain was greater than the love at that point. And was that courage? I can't say that I was being brave. I just didn't feel like I...
It takes a level of that. Absolutely, Lorraine. You were brave in that moment for sure, because you could have not done that, but you did, regardless of what it took you to get there. That's courage. I mean, he tried to keep your courage. That's what that pain was, right? Give me your whatever you want to call it to be, but look at you now.
Yeah.
But exactly, looking back, and I know you're going to say something, but looking back, even though in the midst of all of it, when I look back now, it's like a big... because I learned so much about me in that experience. But I had to let go of the bitterness too. And I had to really forgive him so I could forgive myself and know where I was participating. And I don't think he's a bad person. He just had bad things happen to him that made him be a hurting person. It was a long time ago. I'm sure he's great and doing wonderful things now in his life is my best wish for him. But it was a valuable thing, but it was painful at the time.
You had to have a belief in something, though.
But your pain makes you appreciate your joy.
Oh, sure.
So sometimes it's required. You were going to say, Carmen.
Oh, I was just going to say getting to the point of letting go of yourself, too. And the things you used to think and who you used to be and who you strive to be. That's fearful, too. Because it's unknown.
Yeah, because it's all you know.
Mm-hmm.
That is so true. And here's the thing that I think I told you this story when I was going through what I was going through. And I just remember hearing this little voice, let go, let go, let go. And I'm thinking I got to let go of him and all this stuff and all these things that have happened. And it was of her.
Mm-hmm.
That was the part when I finally stayed still so I could hear myself. Because we're speaking to ourselves all the time. But then we muck it up with noise, right?
Yep.
We go into those distracting situations. We do these things. We sabotage. We do whatever it is so we can keep it noisy. Sometimes you just got to stay still so you can hear self telling you what you need.
Bro, I just speak out loud now. I'm like, I'm not going to keep that in there and let the voice out.
Yeah.
But I know
But
exactly
you
what you're
have
saying.
to.
Yeah.
I mean, but that's your level of self-love that you've learned
Yeah.
to master that, right?
That's-
It took me time to get there.
That's the whole
Journey,
stretching and meditating in the morning. Like just a spot, even if it's 10 minutes of just
You know
quiet.
what I admire? I admire when younger people can get what we're talking about. Because I think it takes a certain level of experience to understand what we're talking about. And if we can teach our younger generation this ahead of time, that's the gift that we're giving. And I hope that we deliver upon on these conversations, because it does take experience to understand our the language we're speaking right now. Even it's not clear to everybody, you know, but we get it. And I'm sure there's a lot of people that get it too.
Yeah. And self-love is understanding that you're resilient. We are so resilient as a people.
Yes.
We don't give ourselves that grace often enough. But we are stronger than we think, right? There are so many times in my life where I just didn't think I was going to make it, or that things weren't going to work out, or this was that, and you know, and it was all in my mind. And then everything just did. Everything was just fine. But it did require me to release the attachment to the stories, right? Okay, this happened. The way I tell the story is how it's going to trigger whatever emotion that's happening in my life.
Yes.
So I can say this happened and be a victim and feel sad and depressed and down about it and hopeless and fearful. Or I can say, no, this happened, but I'm going to say it from a victorious stance.
Amen.
And just really, you know, and again, it's compounding. It's not that easy to say it one day, because I can say it one day and feel very strong in that, and the next day completely falling apart.
Sure.
And so it's being honest with self too, and saying, you know, it's that 1%. What is that one thing? And then tomorrow, let me see if I could do it again. And I keep emphasizing it, because that compounding effect is where you get your results. You know, it's like, oh no, I'm choosing self-love. If that's just a start, and let me look and see what that means. And maybe I don't know, but let me Google it. Let me listen to a podcast. Let me reach out to someone who seems like they're really good at loving themselves. Let me hear what they say, and let me just take notes, because life is about fulfillment, and success leaves clues. Look for fulfilled people.
And the simplicity of it is make yourself up in the morning. If you're going to feel bad today, at least look good feeling bad.
Right.
Not look bad
And
and
that's the
feel
love
bad.
you give yourself even through the pain
even
of
if
it.
that's all you do. And
Right.
go for a walk.
Yeah.
I don't
Just
know.
seek it out aimlessly.
What comes out in my mind as you're speaking, as we're all speaking, is have any of us, I know I maybe not, written down each point of our life that we can recall that we've overcome, and where we're, and what would that be defined, whatever that is, like your experience with your husband. I went through this and this was the outcome. This is what I did. I went through this is the outcome. This is what I did. Whether it's it's something that people can relate to because it's a story, right? It's an example, even though we speak it the way we want it to be. And it might've been at that time different in our mind, because we create the reality that we want it to be. I think that's a great tool to deliver upon people, because oftentimes examples are what connects the story.
Yeah, of
you know,
course,
and
absolutely.
we're talking about examples here. How often do we really do that? As, you know,
I'm a big journaler. I journal a lot and I write a lot, but I don't journal. I used to just journal everything that was happening in my life, right? Like, and then I felt somebody read my journal. I felt very violated by that, and I was very upset. And then I became like, I retreated. And then I started to journal with different intention. Gratitude first, like what am I just grateful for today, right? A few things. And then what am I willing to do for self today? And those, and then maybe tapping into is something that I'm challenged by, say this, that, or whatever it is. But what was the trigger? What was the emotional response? And where else in your life have you felt that before? because there's dots to connect. You know, we're just a bunch of algorithms is all we are. You know, there's this software download of experiences, and it creates these algorithms that create these experiences in life. And it's like tapping into the software. It's like, what do I need to uninstall? What do I need to reinstall into this? This is the hardware.
Yeah.
The mind and the soul and everything is the software.
It's you a narcissist. They'll tell you what you need to take
Ah,
out.
they sure will.
They'll tell
But there's
you
also
where you
the
need to
difference between
fix
a
it.
good author and a great author and an author that's just writing, right? So that's the point where we grow and develop is, you know, where we're at with that. But yeah, no, that's good.
So how do we want to conclude this, ladies? I think this was actually a really good talk.
It was very much.
I personally feel like self-love is super, super important. I did want to tap into the narcissist, not to put emphasis on it, but just so people can kind of see that there is a difference. Again, it's about the compassion and kindness versus the self-righteousness, you know?
Would you call narcissists conceited?
Yeah, of course.
Because back then,
Sometimes-
conceited was the word. Right now, it's
I know
narcissism.
a lot of I've met narcissistic, like high spectrum narcissistic people that are very insecure actually, and they don't
They have to be. They have
they
to be.
they mask their insecurities with conceit.
Sure.
But most of the time it's because they're incredibly insecure about themselves. They need constant reassurance. They need you to pour into them. It's, you know, forget about saying anything about you. What about me? You know, it's like they're just constantly needing their insecurities fed. And then when you're fed up,
Yeah, I know.
they're like, you're out of your mind. You're a selfish person. It's all about you because you stop feeding them, right? So how do we want to conclude? What would we like to say about, let me ask it this way, about self-love and why it's not a selfish thing?
Self-love is not selfish because to self-love is to make yourself better, which isn't affecting anybody else. It's making you better. You're not making anybody feel worse because you're being better for yourself. If it was narcissistic, you would be putting people down or, you know, affecting somebody else's mental and well-being.
I would say, what do you define love to be, and give that to yourself? Trust,
That's good.
compassion, you know, all of those things that we assume love is. You know, that I think that's kind of how I would close that up.
That's actually really good, right? How you love should be how you love yourself.
Amen.
Simple as that. You know, take care of you like you were your own child, you know? And I don't think it's selfish because, again, like what April said on the show before, is I can get counseling or therapy and still show up for you. And it's not a threat that I'll leave you necessarily, right? I can go on a trip with my girlfriends and go on a trip with you. I can do these things for me that make me feel good, make me happier, make me feel more fulfilled, and be that for you, but in a much better version of myself. Because when we are filled up and we are taking care of self, we just are better people to everyone else that we love anyway. You know what I mean? And to me, it's not selfish. It should be a requirement for self. You should be a little selfish sometimes, actually.
1,000%.
You know, there's
Agreed.
nothing wrong with being selfish. It's just how you exercise that selfishness.
And the definition you put behind it.
Yeah.
I think it's all defining words.
People that don't know how to love, though. You know, some people have not experienced love in their life with their families or, you know, so it's like, I guess that would be a whole nother topic.
I would challenge them to look up the word love and ask themselves, do they trust? Do I trust myself?
I think we
Do
define love a lot of time through an emotion.
Sure, but if they don't know what that is,
Right.
there's a base to start somewhere.
And I'm going to say it's a cop-out. You have not, if you've lived long enough, there's somebody who has loved you along the way. You may not get it where
don't
you
get
feel
it.
like you've gotten it where you needed to get it from. And that's understandable. And I get that a lot of people feel like, oh, my mom didn't love me, or my dad didn't love me, or my family didn't love me, and so on and so forth. But if you've lived long enough, you've experienced some version of love from something, whether it's a child and the love there. But you got to seek that. Again, it goes back to languaging. What are you focused on? Are you focused on the unloved version of your life, or can you go out and find the loved version of your life? And you can be that, so you can receive that. And that's the key. Again, if I didn't get love in my life, okay, so does that give you a rite of passage to not be loving? Or if your gripe is that you have no love in your life and that you were not loved, that sounds like something that you desire. And if that is a desire of your heart, then you need to be a demonstration of that first.
Yes,
Right,
girl,
right.
yes.
You have to, again, going back to self, you
Yeah.
have to want to learn to love yourself enough to even be accountable to
Right.
that.
And that's the thing.
Yeah.
You know,
That's
the thing.
excuse. I've never seen love. I've never had love.
It's an
but you are
excuse.
talking to people that feel that way.
Yeah.
So
And I
they're-
get that. I mean, I get people feeling that they've never been loved. I totally understand that. And some people wallow in that, and but it's usually very specific to certain things,
Right.
But it
Exactly.
becomes a focal point for them. But again, your love is your abundance, and to self-love is to be in an abundance. Your love
I
is
love
not
that.
about what you get in life; it's about who you are in life. Do you know what I mean? That's how I see love. To love is to be loved. And if you don't want to love people because you're angry or you're upset or you're hurt or you feel that no one loved you, then start with you. Start loving on other people.
We're loving ourselves just by going here.
Yeah.
I mean, these conversations.
I feel like I'm so mean.
No, girl.
I'm just cold. Anyway,
What?
you better love yourself if you're going
know.
to come over here and love me. I'm just kidding. But it's important. Anyway, so ladies,
Yes.
new show's coming out.
Yes.
It's going to be fun. Listen, if you watch this whole program and you listen to me right now at this point, tell us what you want the girls to talk about, us ladies to talk about. Give us topics, things like we want to have fun. We want to have a light show where we're laughing and we're talking about real life stuff, but we want it to be a great show. So if any input that you all have out there, let us know because we are ramping up for this. And we're super excited for this spinoff with the ladies. And we'll be announcing the name of the show soon enough too.
And no topic left behind either, right?
Yeah, we can
Well,
talk about it all,
yeah,
whatever
yeah,
y'all
yeah,
want to
yeah.
talk about. So anyway, so until next time, love on yourself. Love me by subscribing. And
Yes.
let's make this all about love. But until next time, thank you again for watching. Ciao.